It felt like it was like an actual trailer for like an action movie.
Yeah, amazing. Wow. As soon as this book comes out, I'm going to buy it. Show him.
Such a good story. It's very much a movie.
Wow, that's come together so well.
Well done, well shot, felt big. You feel the scope of it. If you can get funding for this and you can get it out onto a major platform like a YouTube, and you can put the right partners around it to try to drive the right audience there, you're going to be very happy if this is being seen lots and inspiring young kids.
We are in the process of building a brand new series called So You Want to Be an Entrepreneur. We are creating this series to build off the mission for First Pivot, which is inspire and educate the next generation of entrepreneurs. I've teamed up with Jim from First Pivot to create this series. We've designed this series to show school-age kids what it's like to be an entrepreneur while educating them and giving them some inspiration to learn for themselves. And whether or not kids go on to pursue entrepreneurship, these skills are fundamental for voicing your opinion, making change, and having the ambition to make a difference. For the first film, and to prove the concept to people, we really wanted to do an entrepreneur that had a fascinating backstory. We decided to do the founder of Zero Plastics Australia, Adam Slater. Adam has quite a fascinating story. He went to university quite late, where he wanted to become an astrobiologist. As he was studying and working at the university, he had a heart attack and died. At age 30, Adam was given just 10 years to live. Having one child and a second one on the way, Adam was concerned that he wasn't going to be able to have the impact that he wanted in this world within that 10 years if he was going to continue astrobiology. That's when his direction changed and decided, I want to recycle and leave the world a cleaner place. Adam's story shows the grit and the determination that it takes, starting from zero knowledge on how to recycle plastic into creating a plastic milk recycled product empire. Since Jim had a good relationship with Adam, Jim was able to fill me in a lot of Adam's story before we even had a chat to Adam, so it was kind of good to understand the sort of story of this person before we just jumped in to the production. So at this point I knew that Adam had a heart attack, that he had a couple of young kids, and he was trying to make the world a cleaner place by recycling plastic milk lids. What a great cause that is. The three of us jumped on a call and I was able to share a little bit of background of what I'd been up to for the last 4 years of freelancing and sort of steering into this documentary space. And then of course Adam was able to share a brief overview of his story and how he came across his business and what his goals and ambitions for it is. As we were talking in that call and we were sort of building this vision of what we can do when we team up together, the three of us, we kind of realized, yeah, this seems like it's gonna work. We gotta lock in and let's do it. So we decided, let's go lock in Adam for our first person, our first character that we'll do the documentary on. And so without wasting any more time, 2 days later, I gave Adam another call and we started pre-production. Starting this film in July, our aim was to have it finished by the end of August. A pretty quick turnaround, but again, we wanted to jump in, do what we really needed to do, focusing in on the exact elements that were going to create the film that we wanted. That first initial call, it's almost like an interview just without cameras. We're really trying to dig deeper and understand what Adam's story is about, and not being too particular in guiding the conversation in any particular way, just really listening, just picking up anything that's sort of interesting to me and diving deeper and asking more questions about that. Getting an overview for what the story is, that allows us to start thinking about, okay, what are the key story beats and what's important for us to communicate in the film. Once I had that information, I went away for about a week and I was just sort of brainstorming ideas, drawing maps of different story structures and try and figure out what are the key points that we're trying to hit home here. During this phase, it's also important to figure out what the style of the documentary is going to be. Whether it's going to be a verite, heavily B-roll focused recreation. Since Adam's story has already happened, we can't exactly build too much more into what's going on currently, although we do have some of those scenes which are actually verite scenes, which means that we are showing what's happening in real time. But I really wanted to have a strong interview which would form the base of the film and then add some recreation scenes to stylize some of the past events that happened. And as you'll see later in this video, it was great that we decided to do that because some of the scenes turned out really amazing. After Adam and I had that Zoom interview, and I went away and took some notes and did some ideation, we came back a week later and we had another meeting where I presented ideas for the exact structure that we're going to have for the film. With a few little tweaks, we were able to settle on that, and then we had to talk logistics. For logistics, there's two buckets. We've got Adam's side and we've got the production side, or my side. On Adam's side, we had to work out what days Adam was free, how long we could shoot for, what locations we can access. On the production side, for this one, it was relatively routine. I was just going to use the gear that I had, and I decided to run solo for this instead of crewing up, simply because if this was going to be an ongoing series, I really wanted to understand it on all levels, what goes into the production. So within 3 weeks, from my initial call with Jim, to talking with Adam, to now talking about when we're going to film, what day, how that's going to work, this is about a 3-week time span. It was pretty quick, but we just wanted to build some momentum and get things going. We did, however, have a delay. Adam got sick with COVID, and then his sons the week after got sick. So we actually pushed our first shoot day out 3 weeks from the initial scheduled date. By this point, we're almost at the end of July before we've done our first shoot day. And honestly, I thought I was going to have the whole film done by the end of August. Well, at this point, no, that's not going to happen. We're going to have to push the deadline out. Once those delays were out of the way, we began filming. We started our filming with an interview day where the primary objective was to just capture a nice looking interview where we could get all the information that we needed to help build the spine out for the documentary. We went over to Adam's place. We set up in his shed where he does all his plastic work. I set up all my lights, the audio gear and the cameras, and it's pretty much as simple as what we did over Zoom, but this time it was in front of camera. And I was quite lenient for how long we go. I actually blocked out 4 hours for the interview, which is an extreme amount of time for a single interview, but I knew that if we had all this information, it would give us lots of flexibility later on down the track in the edit. And Adam is actually a great talker, so he did not have an issue filling up this time. After that, we filmed Adam walking through the plastic melting process and how he takes the plastic milk lids and turns them into practical products. This is clearly an essential part to Adam and his story and his business, so that's why we decided to do that on day one. We finish off the day filming scenes with his family because they play a big part into Adam's decision as why he started his business. Once I had the interview footage from day one, I started editing straight away. Post-production was very much mixed while we were filming. We were kind of editing and filming as we went. After that first day doing the interview, it took me 5 days straight to just sort through the interview, cut out parts that weren't useful, and sort everything Adam said into categories which we could draw upon later. Once I had sorted the interview, I actually used that as a guide to what we'd film next. It became apparent to me that we needed to recreate a few scenes to kind of bring them to life. I built some visual references to kind of give us a sense of what I was intending the film to look like. That's why on day two we decided to recreate Adam's heart attack and also a few other bits and pieces.
It makes more sense to then shoot that way. So, having trouble doing the light, but I reckon if we get a light through the closet, shining back this way and maybe drape a sheet over it as if it was like a curtain, and then that way we can actually control the light better instead of relying on the light coming through here. Creative juices are flowing.
The third day of filming, I felt like I was missing a few bits and pieces in the workshop, just showing off bits of plastic and what the products that Adam makes actually are. So I already had a shoot that morning in Ballarat, so I just used the afternoon to go over to Adam's place and get a few of those little additional pieces. After those 3 days of filming, I had enough footage to put together a rough cut. So it took me a few weeks to edit together a sort of rough draft of the film, and before I sent it to Jim, I warned him that it's a very, 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 very rough cut, so be nice with your feedback. But even so, there was still lots of things that Jim had flagged, and it was a little bit intimidating at the start. I was a bit concerned that, hey, we're a little bit off course here, but after talking with Jim, we met up at a local cafe and sort of went through what the feedback was. It actually made sense to me that I wasn't quite hitting the notes and the key beats of the story that we needed to. I was actually going away to the US at this point, so we only had a week to film the extra bits that we needed. But we quickly called Adam while we were still at that cafe, and we just, like we've been doing with this whole project, we've just been moving fast, just throwing ideas out, and we were able to schedule another filming day with Adam where we got him presenting to a school. That fourth day was a little bit more fly on the wall style filming. We felt like we were missing that part of Adam's story, because that is now quite a big part of his business, is doing education into schools and helping them learn recycling and how they can also recycle the milk lids and melt them themselves. After that, a few days later, I flew over to the US where I would travel and begin editing the trailer. Trailers are especially important for documentaries because it allows people to see the vision and get a real feel and a sense for what the film is going to be like. Really tease it out for the audience and make them curious to want to find out more and ultimately watch the film. To do this trailer, I actually mapped out and did what's called a paper edit, where I write down the kind of arc that I want the trailer to follow, which is similar to the overall documentary arc, but we have to leave them on question marks as to, oh, what's going to happen when this happens, and when we introduce more information, oh, what's going to happen after that? We got to leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger. Using my paper edit, I was able to go onto the computer, and because I had sorted out Adam's 3.5-hour interview, I was able to easily find those themes and build together a little bit of a story which teases what the documentary is going to be about. You can give it a watch. I've left a link in the description below. There's lots of avenues in which you can release a film. There's a whole bunch of different routes we can go, and we decided for us it would be best if we do a crowdfunding campaign. The reason for that is because it kind of validates the idea. We've done the hard work, the hard yards to get this vision, this trailer up and running so people can see and get a feel for what it's like. But now we want to share with the audience our grand vision for what we have with this So You Want to Be an Entrepreneur series. Our goal with the crowdfunding is to cover the costs of the film that we've done with Adam, but also to launch the book that will accompany the film with Zero Plastics Australia, Adam's story. We also want to raise enough funds for the second film and the second book. Alright, so our crowdfunding campaign is finished as of last night. I'm going to check in and see how we went. In the 4 weeks, with a target of $35,000, we raised $30, which we got on day one. Jeez. Honestly, I feel okay now, but last week I was feeling just so down. Even just like, could kind of get a little bit of a sense straight away, even after the first couple of days of the campaign. It wasn't really going our way. We've got all this content. We've got a nice little pitch video. It all makes sense to us now, what we're trying to achieve. I guess it's just whether, however we're going to actually tackle it, what the next step is what we really need to work out. The execution plan. That is the unfortunate beauty of filmmaking. No matter how much you plan, it never goes exactly how you imagine. It is an incredibly complicated process that requires patience and adaptability. This project has grown so much since its ideation. We are continuing to adapt and find ways to give this project the life we believe it deserves. Despite our setback, our mission remains. Get these books and films to every student across Australia to inspire and educate the next generation of entrepreneurs.